Can't even take a fucking
Are
break.
we are live. Thank you for the introduction there, Miss G.
Hmm.
This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret: How to Fight CPS and Win. And I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Miss G, Georgette Truin. Miss G had suggested, and I agreed, that we should change the format of the show a little bit. And so tonight we are going to be doing a question and answer. So for you folks that are watching, go ahead and post your questions and your comments on the social media platform where you're watching the show, and we'll try to take those questions and try to give you some answers tonight. So, Miss G, while we're waiting for our first question from the audience, anything you want to share with us this evening?
Yes, I had a call today, and actually, you were on a call with us today about uh, a biracial couple that have three kids, and the youngest one is 3 months old. The baby fell off the bed. They have a 2 year old and a 5 year old. Now, they've never been in the system before, and they don't know anything about CPS. And the hospital told them that they cannot release the child until a social worker okays it. So the hospital said it's okay for them to take the child, but they can't release the child until the hospital tells them it's okay. And then Davis, talked to the father, and the father couldn't understand why this was happening. He was so confused. Like, he was so confused that his rights are violated as a parent. And I tried to explain to him that it has a lot to do with money and et cetera, et cetera. But it's very hard and difficult for people to normally understand that. But they don't think they need to lawyer up right away. And that's the problem. The thing is, if you don't lawyer up, then they're going to remove your children, regardless whether you like it or not, whether you're the best parent in the world or not. They're going to take those children. Not, don't think that you can outsmart them. And that's something that you guys need to understand. You can't outsmart them. You can't show them a documentation that shows you're father of the year or mother of the year. It's not going to work. So just keep that in mind. And that's all I
Okay.
have.
All right. So here is Des Renee watching us on one of the Facebook stations or channels. She says, I originally pled not guilty, and we scheduled my trial 4 separate days over the course of 2 months. The first date was started. The state put me on the stand, and when we recessed, I felt pretty good. Not much had been accomplished, but I felt positive. That was November. The second court date was in November, and 30 minutes prior to that, my attorney called and told me she'd put in a continuance because she was help held up at another court. Monday was the third scheduled, actually second section actual court date, and Wednesday, okay, the question ended. So I'm not sure what the question was going to be. So Des Renee, did you want to finish that question, and we can try to answer that for you? Uh, let's see, Kimmy Zwack, go on justice for Kimmy. All right. So Des Renee, I didn't get your question. Have you ever talked to this person, Miss G? Des?
Kimmy?
No, Des Renee.
Mm-mm. I don't know, because sometimes they use a different name
Okay.
on the shows. But if nobody, I mean, it's still new to the people. Answering questions is still new to them. So we just need to give them a chance.
Okay.
That's Renee. Mhm.
Here's Des Renee. She convinced me to change my plea to no contest. Okay. Des Renee, what is your question though? That's not a good sign. just without knowing any facts. Pleading no contest is not always, something that should be done. My attorney did. No, I haven't talked to anyone there.
Yeah, I don't remember talking to her.
Okay. So, Desrene, I don't know what you're trying to ask me, though. You scheduled 4 days of trial. You started one. They continued the second one. Oh, here's your question. Can I go back to the trial?
Hmm.
The answer is maybe. And she says, I didn't want to plead no contest, and I still don't. Well, here's the problem, Desrene. You're going to have to make a motion to set aside your plea of no contest. Now, depending on what state you are, there are different rules, procedural rules, different, evidentiary rules, different laws that apply. So, but if you were in California, I would guess, just based upon what you've told me, you might have a 75% chance of getting that set aside. Now, the converse is something that you have to consider as well. And the converse is, excuse me, oh, Desrene is in Arizona, is if you make a motion to set aside your plea, and if you win, and then you go forward with the trial and you lose, you're going to be in a probably a worse strategic legal position. So, I don't know what the facts are. I don't know what the evidence is. I don't know what the procedure is, but I don't know how you went from having a 4 day trial to pleading no contest. You kind of skipped that part of the story. And if you want to fill that in or ask me some more questions, please feel free to. All right, we have someone on YouTube, Miss Mills. Miss Mills says, "Dear Mr. Davis." Okay, I got to have the question, Miss Mills.
Guys, write your questions down, please. Write your questions down. Meanwhile, Mr. Davis, while they're doing that, I need to ask you a question about um, the JV 820. My question is, Mr. Davis, what is a JV 820?
Okay, well, let's Google it together. JV 820.
Mm-hmm.
In California, it, oh, I just messed that up. In California, it is a form that, here, let me pull it up for you. It's a notice of intent to file a petition and request for a record. Okay, so generally, when you're at the 21E or 21F hearing, or even at the disposition, if the court orders no FR services for you, or if you had FR services and they were terminated, and the case is set for a selection and implementation hearing under 0.26, 366.26, you got
Mm-hmm.
to file this notice of intent to file a writ. It basically is an appeal.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now they call it a writ. Writ, by definition, in California is something discretionary where the Court of Appeals has to um, make a decision whether they're going to make whether they're going to make a decision on your case or on your writ. But this particular writ is a special type of writ under California Rule of Court 8.450,
Mm-hmm.
and you can Google that, California Rules of Court 8.450, where this is the only mechanism you have to appeal the termination of your family reunification services.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what a JV 820 is, and I wish I could post this, but if you just type in California WIC JV 820, that
Mm-hmm.
form will come up. And if you're in California, you don't even have to type all of that. You can just type, JV 820.
Okay.
Okay.
All
So
right. So
I hope that answered your question.
yes, it did. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
So Talitha.
okay, Miss Mills. It says, "Is there any advice you can give me as far as having one of my three children adopted out wandering 2 years ago? Any attorneys in Alabama you can suggest?" Okay. So as far as attorneys in Alabama, I can suggest I cannot. You might Google the local bar association in your state or in your county and try to get some referrals from there. Yes, Miss G.
There is no one in Alabama that wants to take a CPS case.
Okay. Miss Mills, so like I said, you might want to Google it and try to find something. And as far as giving you advice for kids that have been adopted out, I'm going to assume you mean is there any advice that I can give you to try to get them back? Now, if you were in California, you could make a motion to try to set aside the adoption, but you got to have some very specific grounds to do that. One of the grounds that I can think of is fraud, but that has a high burden of proof. There may be some issue regarding Indian heritage, American Indian heritage. You might be able to set aside the adoption. I have seen that one work in California. But other than that, unless you can give me a more specific question, um, I'm not really understanding that or your comment. And Miss G, I would just want to tell you that's why I said this might be, a telephone call-in part of the show might be different because people are writing and they're not, being very clear on what they're trying to ask. Whereas if I'm on the phone with them, I can interact with them.
I
All right.
guess you're right again, Mr. Davis.
Joshua says, "What is a CACC?" Joshua, I don't know. Generally, CA means California. You might be referring to something called the CACI, and the CACI is the what they call the khaki index. So if you're a person who allegedly committed some type of child abuse, you're put on this index by the Department of Justice in California. I am almost positive that every state has something similar. So that if you meant CACI, that's what it is. All right. People are posting right now, and I'm having a hard time keeping up. Thank you so much. I will never give up on my son. He is 18. He is not so good. Well, Kimmy, I hope things work out with you and your son. Uh, they did not help me. Miss G, have you ever talked to Kimmy?
Not that I remember, no.
Okay. Here is Ashley. Ashley, I have a niece in foster care. I live in Missouri and I'm trying to get her home.
I'm sure they told her she cannot get her home because she lives in a different state. I'm pretty sure.
Well, where does Ashley live?
She
Oh,
said
she lives in
she
Missouri, but
lives in Missouri.
where's
Correct.
the niece? I don't know. Well, Ashley, if you were in California and the well, you're not in California, you're in Missouri, but if your foster care child, your niece was in California, there is a lot that you can do. I hear a lot of people tell me, well, Mr. Davis, the social worker said, since I live in Arizona or Florida or Maine, that I can't get a foster child out of California. And if it's a relative, that's absolutely incorrect. There's something called the Interstate Compact for the Placement of Children. And in the United States, all states belong to that. So that's a law that helps kids move from state to state to be placed with relatives. And it has something to do with the constitutional right of travel. I don't know if you are familiar with this, Miss G, but you're familiar with the right to religion, the right to freedom of speech, that type of thing. Well, there's a right up there with all of those called the right to travel. In other
Really?
words, yeah, You have to be able to travel and move and conduct business or family, cases like this between the states, and it's a constitutional mandate. So Ashley, I hope that helped you. Okay, then we have Joshua watching us on YouTube. Joshua says, son stepped through trampoline. Mother used fact that I disciplined to remove him. I've been getting harassed via DCFS. Okay, that I'm sure that's not right, but I mean that's not a good thing. But I'm not surprised that you're being harassed by DCFS. Are you, Miss G?
I'm not shocked at all. I'm not shocked. And I know that some of you guys that call me, especially when you're dealing with a CPS investigation, I made a bet today, a $500 bet with one of our callers. I did. She said they're not going to open a case because the social worker told her they're going to close her case. I said, I'll bet you $500. And I kid you not. And I put that in writing. I said, they're going to open a case and they're going to remove all your children. She said, I'm on to that bet. She took it on. She said, I agree. I will bet you $500 that they're not going to remove my kids. So I guess I'll let you guys know if she won the bid or I won the bid.
Yeah. We get a lot of those calls,
Yep. It's ridiculous.
and they call me back saying, well,
Mhm,
they took the kids.
mhm,
I got one of those calls today, although I didn't bet them. I remember talking to her a couple weeks ago, and she texted me because she had my personal mobile number. She texted me. She said they just took my kids.
mhm.
You know, I thought, well, that's I told you so, but I didn't say that, and you
Oh, I
know,
do. I tell them that.
I
You're
don't.
nicer than me, I guess. I mean, I'm
I
not.
I don't tell them that. I
Oh,
mean,
I do.
they're in such a bad situation already. They just lost their kids. They don't need to hear me throw it in their face.
Oh, I
But
do.
I'm going to try to help her. Okay, here's Des Renee is back. On Monday, I met with my attorney about an hour or more ahead of court. She basically told me that the baby's daddy and placement, his daughter, don't know why I want to put them on the stand. That all they're going to do is make me look bad. So somehow she convinced me to change my plea to no contest and agree to a service plan. I vehemently refused, and I am wondering how long do I have to change that? I didn't sit up straight. It didn't right with me. It still doesn't. I have been going back and forth, and I would. Okay, so
Yeah, the questions are not coming in as I thought.
well, they're coming in. They're just not clear.
They're not clear, right?
Yeah.
They're
It's
not
like
clear.
texting. It's nothing's better than conversation. Well, Des, let me tell you this. One of the things you're asking is how long do you have? And this is one of those things, if you were in California, um, you have to move as fast as possible. And the longer you wait, the least likely the judge is going to rule in your favor to set aside your plea. Now, let me say that again. The longer you wait, the least likely the judge is going to approve your setting aside the plea. In the law, there is something called latches, and latches is a equitable term regarding time limitations. There is no general time limitation on latches, but the longer you wait, your chance of success will decrease. Okay. Now, I don't know if that's a hard concept for people to understand or even believe, but once in a while, I have that conversation, and people think that on day one, when we talk, and then on day 90, when we talk again, they think the judge is going to look at their case the same way. They just waited 90 days to do something. They kept thinking about it and thinking about it. Like my dad used to say, they pulled a Rumpelstiltskin on it and they wanted to sleep on it. Okay. Well, while they were sleeping on it, their rights are slipping away. And I try to explain that to people, and a lot of people don't believe me. They think on day one they have rights, and on day 90 they have the same rights.
Mhm,
Not on something like that. And I really see it come up, Ms. G, in this type of case.
mhm,
Today, the court terminated your family reunification services
mhm,
and set a date 120 days down the road,
mhm,
okay, to have your termination of parental rights hearing.
Mhm.
Now, in that 120 days, there are so many things that you can do. All right. But a lot of people say, well, I'm not gonna do anything right now. And they call me up the day before or the day 2 days before the termination of rights hearing and says, hey, Mr. Davis, they're really going to do this. They're really going to terminate my rights.
Mhm.
I figured that out over the last 118 days, and I need you to do something. I'm a lawyer. I'm not a magician. I don't have a magic wand. You're not giving me enough time to do something, to do everything that I think that you should do. Well, what should you do? Well, if you're in California, you should file a 388 petition. You should
Mhm.
file a motion for a bonding study. You should try to find out, you know, to get evidence to help you prepare for the 2-6 hearing where they're going to try to terminate your rights. And what type of evidence? Well, it differs from case to case, right? No case is alike.
Mhm.
I just did, I just did a contested 2-6 hearing a couple days ago, Miss G.
I know.
And I didn't tell you what happened on it. The rights weren't terminated, but I got lucky because of pure circumstances. Okay. But the client came to me 2 days before the actual hearing. And I had talked to her long ago and thought that I could do all of that just overnight.
I know.
And I can't.
I
I
know.
mean, I don't have that magic wand. Okay. Here's one of our regular viewers. I recognize that picture. Toby Henderson. We are talking about raising funds for legal assistance for people. Great idea. I remember you mentioned that. Maybe it was last night or the night before. Ashley says, oh, she's in Kirksville, Missouri. But Ashley, if you're in she is in Missouri. So both of you are in Missouri.
She doesn't understand the laws in Missouri. And the thing about it is, guys, when you Google search engine for attorneys, CPS attorneys, a lot of them don't want to take the case because it's a conflict of interest. And I don't know what that means in their heads. I mean, to me, a conflict of interest is, I know this person and it's a conflict of interest that I deal with you. So who in the hell do they know in your case, right?
Oh,
That they
but
can.
Miss G, there could be a lot of things that could cause a conflict of interest.
What
The
could be?
example that you just gave is one. It
Hmm.
could be one of them.
What's
But
the others? I mean, it doesn't make sense. What is the attorney's job?
it has nothing to do with his job or her job. It's just if you come to me and say, "Hey, I want you to represent me in a case against Mr. Jones," all right, I may have a conflict of interest where I can't represent you. What are the conflicts, or what could be the conflicts? One conflict is I used to represent Mr. Jones in a similar
Mm,
situation. Another conflict is I'm best friends with Mr. Jones' legal secretary. Another conflict could be, oh, I'm related to Mr. Jones's wife. So there could be a lot of things. It could
okay,
be,
that's
it could
knowing
be, hold
someone.
on. It could be, I'm on the board of directors with Mr. Jones at XYZ Corporation.
Okay, that's two things you gave me. That's two.
No, I guess four things.
No, because knowing is one.
No, it's
Knowing
not, it's
someone
not,
related.
it's not knowing. All right. So I could know Mr. Jones from, you know, 10 years ago, we went to college together. That's not a conflict. There's a judge right now who hears CPS cases in LA County. I went to law school with him. We were in the same law school class. I mean, we're not friends or anything, but that's not a conflict of interest. But I know the judge. I knew him when he was a law student. So it has to do with more of an analysis of a relationship, not just knowing. And then there's some conflicts that people don't think are conflicts. Let me give you an example. This is actually a real case. I represented a woman in a divorce. All right. And during the divorce, she told me that her husband's attorney was the first attorney she went to discuss the divorce and asking the attorney to represent her. They had a
Oh,
conversation of about 30 or 40 minutes. I made a motion to disqualify that attorney. I learned so many things that I didn't know about a conflict of interest. The court finally ruled that it wasn't a conflict of interest, and there are reasons why the court did that. And I won't go into all the legalese, but there is a way that, after learning that there wasn't a conflict, I'd have to, at this point in time, I'd have to tell you I agree with the judge. Now, how could that be possible, right?
no.
My client originally went to that attorney, the husband's attorney, and said, I want to get divorced, and this is what's happening. And they have a 40-minute conversation. My initial knee-jerk reaction, this was many years ago, decades ago, was to file a motion to disqualify the attorney. And that's when I learned a valuable lesson, Miss G. Conflict of interest is a term of art. It doesn't mean what you think it means.
I think it's a coward way of saying, I don't want to deal with it.
Oh, that could be.
Okay, that's what it is. They're cowards.
I can see that happening many times. Attorneys don't want to hurt your feelings. Oh, Miss G, I don't want to take your case. I got a conflict of interest.
Exactly.
Well, what is your conflict of interest? I can't tell you.
I can't tell you because it's
confidential.
Confidential.
Right.
But what the joke is,
that could be the case. But unless you have evidence of it, it's kind of reckless to say or to draw some kind of conclusion, because we are dealing with the law. And what do I tell people all the time? Justice isn't what you think it is.
wait,
All right.
you know this already. But my thing is this real quick. I know you have to.
The questions are stacking up.
Okay, go ahead. Answer the questions. But I need to make a comment about the conflict of interest still. So go ahead. Attend to Toby.
Okay, Toby says the Bar Association in New Hampshire was useless. I had to file a federal lawsuit on my own. Toby, you and thousands of other people. It's not that the Bar Association is useless. You couldn't find an attorney that would take your case on your terms. Right? And Toby, we've talked about the financial ramifications of these kinds of cases. Federal civil rights cases against CPS and social workers are extremely expensive. Extremely. I won't mention any names, but there's a guy that I consider one of the gurus in this area who represents people. And he once told me on a case, if he hadn't won that case, he might have gone bankrupt. Now, Toby, do you want this gentleman, who's one of the best attorneys, in California, to go bankrupt because you have a case and you can't finance it? I don't think many attorneys buy into that. Okay. When a parent is worn down emotionally in a case, do you recommend to come to an agreement and resolution? This is what I did by giving my mom custody 4 years ago. My own mental health couldn't do it anymore after a year. That's from Melanie Wolf, watching on Facebook. Melanie, the answer to that question, it's a personal question, right? I can't tell you whether you should come up with a resolution or not. That's something that's very unique to you, your family, your religious leader, your friends, and you're a lawyer. Now, when I was in law school, in my third years of law school, we had to take a class, and it was called Lawyering Skills. I don't even know if they still have that class, but it was a required class. And one of the things that the professor told us, which I found shocking because I had never thought about this, is that some people do not have the emotional or psychological makeup to do a legal battle. They just don't. That doesn't make them bad people. It's just that they don't want to be bothered, or they can't be bothered. They don't have the coping mechanisms to try to deal with something like a lawsuit. And in these CPS cases, these are lawsuits. And Melanie, they do try to wear you down. That's part of their game plan, to make you back off and so that they can win. All in the name of what? Protecting children, supposedly. All right. Timothy Clark, watching on YouTube. I have 3 daughters that
They've been.
have
They've
been in foster care for 2 years now. 2 years. No, and at the last minute, they're asking me to stop my meds. I stopped testing because I have not found anything to replace my meds with a non-narc. You want to
what's the
help me?
goal?
You want to help me translate that, Miss G?
Um, Norc, maybe narcotics, maybe non-narcotics. I'm not. I don't know what she means by that.
Too bad they're not on the phone. Here's Timothy
You're
Clark.
not going to let it go, are you? Oh my God! Oh my God! Okay.
Okay, Timothy Clark says, "What should I do?" Timothy, I can't even begin to tell you because I don't understand your question.
Because it's my fault.
I'm sorry. Miss G didn't want you have you on the phone. So Timothy, if you can retype and maybe re-explain, I might have an answer for you. Okay, we're going back to Des Renee. Okay, no, thank
It's
you.
just an experiment.
All right. Okay, Ashley says, watching on YouTube, I'm just trying to figure out all of the laws in Missouri so I can get my niece back. All right, Ashley, I'm going to tell you something, and I hope you don't take this the wrong way.
Mhm.
You are going down the wrong road. Okay. You're probably a very nice, very intelligent person who's never been to law school, who doesn't know anything about the Code of Civil Procedure, the substantive laws, or the evidentiary laws in your state. How in the world are you going to figure out on your own how to get your niece out of Missouri foster care? Okay. Has it ever been done? Yeah, maybe 1 out of 1,000. This is a pretty important thing. So you should probably go and talk to a lawyer in Missouri and try to figure out what needs to be done. Now, I use this example all the time, Ashley. Not too long ago, well, it's been a while now, my mechanic says, Mr. Davis, you need a new transmission. Ashley, guess what I didn't do? I didn't run down to Pep Boys and buy a new transmission. I didn't buy the tools. I didn't buy the supplies. I didn't buy the Chilton book, on replacing transmissions in my model and year car. You know why I didn't do that, Ashley? Because I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Mhm.
Now, I'm a fairly smart guy. I don't know anything about that. It's just like if the doctor tells you you need open heart surgery. What are you going to do? Google that and try to do it yourself? No. You see how ridiculous it is? And I'm sorry to say that it's almost as ridiculous to think that you can win this case by yourself.
Mhm.
Do people ever win cases by themselves? Yeah, it happens. The stars align, right? Maybe 1 out of 1,000. But if you really care about your niece, do you want to go with the percentage 1 out of 1,000? You probably want to go with the 999 out of 1,000 percentage. Okay? So Ashley, please go talk to a lawyer. Please, invest in some phone calls, invest in some, maybe you have to pay $100 to get some, a consultation. Maybe the consultation is free. Believe me, it will be worth it. All right. We've lost Miss G. Oh, there's Miss G. All right. Des Renee says, I've been doing everything you've said. I did my own witness list and I put everyone on the list. But I'm only interested in putting the investigator and my caseworker on the stand, per your advice via video. Okay, Desiree, if you saw that on one of my videos, do not take that advice. All right. My advice sometimes when people call in and they tell me a story, it's tailored to what I know about that question. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Should you cross examine the investigator and caseworker? Probably. Not guaranteed, but probably. And I don't know the facts of your case, but there may be other percipient witnesses that you want to call to put on the stand. Let me give you an example. The other day I was doing a trial and I had some letters from my counselor, my client's counselor and parenting instructor and drug abuse counselor. And I was asked, why do I need to call those witnesses? At the very least, I have to call them to lay a foundation to get those letters into evidence. Otherwise, for parents, they're inadmissible hearsay. And in the conversation, I said, I got to call them as witnesses at least for that. And unless, the county council, the social worker's attorney, is going to agree that those letters can come into evidence.
Mm-hmm.
The social worker's attorney wasn't going to agree. I have to call those witnesses. All right. A trial sometimes can be a very methodical, kind of long thing to plan out. Des, I think you said you had 4 days of trial scheduled, you know, and that might be a little long, but sometimes, a full day might be the average to do one of these cases in a trial. And I'm not talking about an hour here, 30 minutes here, an hour there, 30 minutes there. I'm talking about a full day in court. You're the only case. Today, I had a trial scheduled. I had a trial scheduled today. And yesterday, the clerk of the court calls me and the other attorneys and says, hey, judge is busy in a trial. We're not going to finish today. Your case needs to be continued.
Mm-hmm.
Great. You know, I don't have to go into court and, find out at the last minute. But, a lot of these cases are continued, and it's no control over, what you have. Unfortunately, in California, they're not enough judges. There are not enough courtrooms because people have to wait for justice. They have to wait weeks, months, and sometimes the law doesn't or didn't anticipate that type of thing, right? But that's the reality when we're living in recessionary times and our country is having financial difficulties, you know. So
That Davis. Okay, I'm not gonna even.
go ahead, Miss G.
Mm-mm. No.
I'm glad everybody is must be wondering what Miss G is thinking. Okay, shaking prayers in Alabama being wrongfully terminated as a parent. Child has been gone since 2018. Okay, shaking prayers, we hear that. Hope you're consulting some attorney in Alabama about trying to make that stop. Here's shaking prayers again. They did her father wrong as well, and we are seeking justice for our daughter. In Alabama, there are more laws protecting foster parents' rights than the
Mhm.
natural parents and other eligible relatives.
That is, I heard this before, by the way, not to interrupt you, Attorney Davis, but shaken prayers is absolutely correct. The laws protect foster parents, not the parents,
Can I tell you why?
because we live in a demonic, fucked up government world.
No, it's very simple. Foster parents have what do you call it when you pay somebody? They have associations whether they get together and they send somebody to Sacramento or your state capital and they help influence the laws that are made.
Hmm.
So foster parents, they get a lot of play, they get a lot of action
Hmm.
at the state level and they get laws that help them be foster parents. Do parents do that? No. So, we were talking the other night on the show. It really does come down to money and power and votes. But is anything different in our society? And what are we going to do as groups of parents? Okay, here's a Kimmy says, "Hi, I'm Rich and I created the Justice for Kimmy." Okay. I've been trying to help her get justice for all that CPS and family did to her. When I came into her life and heard her story, I just couldn't believe it. I would do anything to get her help. She is the love of my life. If you read her story that I wrote on Justice for Kimmy, it tells all. Okay, Rich, I hope our viewers will go ahead and Google that, Justice for Timmy, or you might want to post the link where we can just go ahead and, click on and read the story. Okay, here's Toby. Toby, I filed a pro se in federal court under 42 USC 1983 and served a summons on the judge, the two agents, and the ex wife a year ago. All right. I just did the last objection and I'm awaiting reply for the judge. Okay. Suing the judge is a very difficult thing because of the immunity they enjoy, but keep us posted, Toby. I want to see what happens. Okay, here we go back to Des. Des says, it's because they all work together and they're in cahoots. And that's why I love you guys. It's really hard to find anyone who will sit down and discuss going toe to toe against CPS. I have a hard time believing you are real. Are you real, Miss G?
Some people think I'm not, and I had to prove it to them. I had to have Mr. Davis say on the show that I'm real, like literally. Like, remember, Mr. Davis? I think you're fake.
You're
You don't work for an attorney's office because I called them at 8:45 at night.
you are a computer generated artificial intelligence character.
And you treat me like one, Mr. Davis. You treat me like one.
You don't have any feelings being computer generated.
I'm a workaholic. That's the thing. I'm a workaholic. I literally dedicate my life and the hours that I shouldn't be working to the public. But yet they still question if I'm a scam, or that I think somebody said last week I don't work for you, and they want me to prove it. Remember when you had to text somebody, Georgette works for me. I am attorney Vincent Davis. Because they don't believe I will call them at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night.
Right.
Literally, they don't believe it.
Some nights I wake up and I go to the bathroom about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I look at my phone and, someone's inevitably texts me at 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. And then I respond. And they're like, are you a computer or are you a real person? Where's Mr. Davis?
Exactly.
I am Mr. Davis.
Yep.
And then we go, 10 minutes going back and forth, me proving I'm Mr. Davis on the phone with them.
Yeah. Same here.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about that.
Yeah.
Okay, Kimmy says, the way that CPS and court system works, it's against you from the start. Now, Kimmy is suffering from it every day. We lost justice in this country. Her lawyer was even against her. She was going along with the system, more like in cahoots with the system.
What? The way that the CPS and the court system works is against us. The system is against parents and against mothers. And I'm not joking. This shit switched switched in 2008. 2008, mothers have been retaliated against for a long fucking time. And the reason for that is because in order for them to destroy the family, they have to remove the closest thing to the mother. So that's why I call the system demonic abusive system. Only a narcissist would want to destroy a mother's heart. And why are the kids who are really being abused, right? Why are they they're not in the system. The kids who are really being abused, they're still being abused. DCFS doesn't get involved. They don't get involved, but they do get involved with false allegations, good parents, good mom, no records, but they still get involved and they remove that child. Why? Because a healthy child is easier to adopt than a damaged child. That came from the social worker that was working for the department in LA County, who's now a very good friend of mine. She literally showed me text messages from her fucking supervisor. That stupid bitch is still a supervisor in LA County, telling her that it's easier to adopt a healthier child. So she can go far with this shit, but she's scared. I tried to convince her to talk to Attorney Davis. She's scared of the county. She said, "You don't understand, Georgette, what they're capable of." That's how fucked up they are, because she's afraid they're going to go after her sister's kids and her brother's kids. That's what she fears the most. But I have seen some shit. So, yes, if I get mad, angry, frustrated when I speak to you guys, is because this shit exists. And I cannot hear anyone telling me that there are some good social workers out there, because you don't want me to hear you say that to me. You can say that to Davis all you want, but not to me, because there isn't. And don't ever put your guard down. That's all. I mean, I try to give you advice as much as I can, like I would give to my best friend, my sister, anyone in my family. Don't put your guard down, and don't think that because a social worker smiled in your face, that social worker is going to be on your side.
I just want to say hello back to Jasmine Jones. Jasmine, I would invite you to be a guest on our show. I think people would benefit from what you have to say. All right. Kimmy says they took her son for no reason. There was never any investigation into any of the allegation. Okay, this is Rich, who founded this foundation for Kimmy, Justice for Kimmy. Rich, I think you're talking to the choir. I know Georgetta has heard this from hundreds of people,
Mhm.
me, thousands of people, and everyone on here. I mean, has been somehow affected negatively by CPS.
And he's right. There is no investigation. They say there's an investigation going on. And I swear on the Holy Bible, there is no investigation. I kid you not. These assholes copy and paste from other reports into your reports, and some dumb shit forgets to remove the name of the previous report she copied or he copied and pasted from. I have seen this in reports all the time. If your name is Norman Hernandez and the report is copy and pasted from another report as Jessica Ferguson, right? So who the fuck is Jessica Ferguson? This is not your life, but they copied Jessica's life and put it in your report. And when you point this out to the judge, you know what the judge says? Be quiet and sit down. Be quiet and sit down. And sometimes they'll say, shut up and sit down. That's how much power and control they have against you, assholes.
Hey, Miss G, we've come to the end of our show. That went really fast. Taking questions. Did you want to do this again tomorrow night? Grace was under the impression you want to do another question and answer show, and that you didn't want to have a guest tomorrow night.
Because we talked about it yesterday on the show. We agreed to do 3 days a week, but we didn't know how it's going to turn out yet.
Okay.
So we
Well, okay.
have to
Well, all right. Well, tell Grace we're going to do it again. We're going to do question and answer tomorrow night. You guys, if I didn't answer your questions or get to your questions, there were a lot of questions. We get this show's on 8 different social media streams, Facebook and on YouTube. I do want to give a shout out to a super chat that was paid on YouTube by Aaron. So thank you very much, Aaron, for that super chat. And Heather, I hope you come back tomorrow night, and I promise to address your questions, give them priority.
So what are we doing? Aw, thank you. Shaking prayers. I love you too. So, what are we going to do tomorrow night?
Questions and answers. We're going to continue. Everyone that was watching tonight at 7, come in tomorrow night at 7 with your questions, and I'll try to get to them. Yes,
Wait. You're rushing me. I don't like that. Wait.
show's over, Miss G.
Wait, Davis. We have a few more minutes.
No, we
Uh,
don't. We're 5 minutes over.
Davis, wait. Guys, when you write down your questions, put down the county the case is in or the state, so that way at least the state, California, Missouri, Chicago. Put the state in so that way we know what state you're referring to. Um, Write down the question. Like, for example, my kids were removed. Just real good questions. My kids were removed. I'm not sure what to do. My jurisdiction hearing is next week. What, and then ask the question. So let us know a little bit more in one sentence rather than back to back, because other people text also. And then your text is all the way on the top, and we just keep going back and forth. Okay.
Hey, Miss G, I have a suggestion. You can think about it, and if you don't want to do it, it's fine. Since we're doing this right now, if I were you, I would ask you or to think about this. Take your iPhone and make a video of yourself about how someone can get the most out of these shows, these question and answer shows, and then you put it on like a 30-second or a 60-second or a 90-second video, and then we have Grace post it when she's announcing the show and all that kind of stuff, so people can see it and they can be ready to ask questions the right way.
I can do
Yeah.
that. That's not a
Okay.
problem.
And a lot of the questions this evening, I didn't understand them, right? And sometimes you're typing really fast on your keyboard and you're looking at me, you're looking at Miss G, and you're leaving out words and thoughts and ideas. So maybe you can prepare them prior to the show so you can just post it up there. Kind of
Okay, not a
kind of
problem.
cut and paste.
Okay,
All right.
Cadence. Wait, hold on. Cadence. I need you to email me your phone number and I will call you. GAT@vincentwdavis.com. GAT@vincentwdavis.com. Can you write that down, Davis, for her, please? So that way I have your information to call you.
Hey, Miss Harper, oops.
Are you serious right now? Please disregard that email that Mr. Davis wrote. Not that one, Cadence. Not that one.
How
There you
about
go.
that? How about that one?
GAT@vincentwdavis.com.
So, Cadence, if anybody wants to contact Miss G, that's her email. All right. Okay, Miss G, thank you very much for co-hosting with me tonight. I'll see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Good night, everyone.
Davis, check your phone.
Check my phone.
Check your text messages. After the show, Vincent.
Oh, okay. All right. Good night, everyone.
Bye.